welcome back to Calling All Cattlewomen, a podcast sponsored by American National Cattlewomen. Today, I'm your co-host, Meredith Hallwig, and I have Leanna and Nicki with me. And we're just going to give you guys kind of a summary of what CattleCon was all about in our American National Cattlewomen meetings. Nicki, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that we could get all of the co-hosts together for the podcast and talk about CattleCon, which if you're not familiar with what CattleCon is, it is where the beef industry meets, and it's hosted by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, or NCBA. And the three of us had the pleasure of attending the whole week. And so today we're going to talk all about that. And I figured we could start with maybe talking about American National Cattlewomen because we did get to San Antonio a couple days early to attend some ANCW meetings. And so on Saturday, we and a bunch of cattlewomen from all over the country got together and we took a tour to several locations. So can y'all just talk a little bit about where we went and what we did?
Sure, I'll start us off. The first place that we went was just a hop, skip, and jump in the hotel room, and it was a Western art museum. And the building had a really cool history of once being a library, and then a bunch of like other things that ended up covering up all of the really cool architecture of this building that was built in the early 1900s. And so they were able to revive all of that, and it was like stepping back through time. And they had paintings and statues and saddles and wagons and everything Western that you can think of they had there. And so that was a really cool museum, and I enjoyed walking through all three floors of it.
Yeah, and then I absolutely love the art museum. And then next we kind of went to a corn maze. That's where their largest income comes from. They also have a cattle production on the side, but it was really neat to see kind of how their corn maze started, how their family kind of went into that. And we were able to kind of walk the grounds and kind of see what it looks like with not a ton of people on the grounds and seeing their off season, which is really neat, which they generate quite a large income from their September, October kind of season there. But honestly, seeing what they could do with all of that land and then kind of seeing what issues they were facing as well. I knew that they were kind of facing some water issues there. So it was really neat to hear the family story and kind of how they're dealing with that there in Texas. Versus, I guess we all come from the Western states where water is such a huge issue and such a large part of our daily lives. But now seeing it hit kind of our southern states is really a large impact, especially on me, just because I didn't know it was hitting them as hard as it does.
Yeah, then we went to, so that was the Graph 7A Ranch. And then we went to Primo Processing Facility, which was more so a wild game processing facility, but we got to take a tour. We tried some meats, which I'm not even sure all the meats we tried, but we tried some meat and that was really great. But I just really loved meeting all of the other cattlewomen from across the country because we share a lot of the same issues, but a lot of, the issues that other people face, we might not. And so it's really interesting to get everyone together and hear everyone else's challenges that they face on their operations.
Right. Yeah, the meats were a little crazy to try. I think they even said we were able to try some zebra and a couple other of beef pieces, but it's really neat how they kind of processed everything there, I thought. So
Yeah, I've never seen a processing place utilize barcodes to keep everything organized so they make sure that the right pieces are going to the right customers with essentially like a barcode scanning system is the way that I understood it. And their focus is really to bring technology that we have had for a really long time into that space to make it better. And so I thought that was a really neat place to go to.
Yeah. And so the following 2 days were ANCW business meetings, and there's general sessions where all the cattlewomen convene, and then there's committee meetings. And so can y'all just talk a little bit about the structure of ANCW meetings that happen in the winter and fall, or I'm sorry, the winter and the summer for those who have never been to an ANCW meeting?
Yeah. So one of the main focuses of the meetings is it's our two general membership meetings that happen the 2 times a year. So it's it's a bunch of meetings wrapped up in 2 days. So there's an executive committee meeting, which is for some of our higher up leadership, which everyone is welcome to attend. We then have a board of directors meeting, which is going to be state presidents, region reps, our college representative, and our members at large. And then lastly, we have a general membership meeting. So they kind of go over a lot of the same things, but things have to be voted on at the executive level, the board level, and then the general membership level to make sure that we do things like pass the budget, do budget changes, do bylaws changes, stuff like that, that has to go through those 3 steps. So that usually happens mostly the second day is the more hard-hitting day. The first day, we often have a lot of different guest speakers come, including the NCBA president, who this year was from Wyoming, and he had a really great perspective, was just a really nice person. And they always are. They're always such knowledgeable and well-spoken individuals, and I always enjoy listening to them and their experiences from traveling across the country. And then we also get a NCBA DC update, usually from Ethan Lane, and him and the rest of the team at NCBA. They live in DC and they work in DC, and I've had the pleasure of joining them twice now, and it's really an incredible experience if you ever get the opportunity to go on the ANCW DC trip. But they are there year round, and they are watching bills and watching what's going on in DC and actively being an advocate for the ag industry, sometimes before these bills even hit the floor. And I mean, they know everybody in there, especially going through there. I mean, they knew everybody. So Ethan gives us a DC update. And at this meeting, he was saying that they are really, really optimistic with what's going on so far. They really like President Trump's pick for Secretary of Agriculture. They said that she is really open to working with them, and they're really excited to work with her, that she's willing to listen and learn from them as much as she can. And that they're also really looking forward to a lot of the tax cuts that President Trump is proposing. I know that's a big driver for the Republican Party right now, and a lot of those tax cuts could affect us in a big way. And so there isn't always a positive. It isn't always positive. It's always good. It's not always a like super heartwarming speech from our people in DC, but this time it was. So it was really optimistic and uplifting to hear what's going on there. And then we also had 2 presentations, one about a program called the Beef Suitcase, or can you guys elaborate a little bit more on that? I had to step out from that one to do homework, unfortunately, but were you guys there for that one?
Yeah, so kind of the newer thing, I guess, with ANCW is there's a beef suitcase that kind of travels around the country, is how it was kind of proposed. And so it's full of knowledgeable assets that was created by Missouri Extension, and was really just hit on the head of every single thing you can highlight with beef. So whether that's byproducts, kind of what goes on a feedlot kind of situation. They even have traveling hamburgers that are made out of materials, just to really showcase what kind of comes from cattle, and kind of what that looks like. And they even had a couple of dairy products in there as well. But it's honestly the size of a travel size suitcase. So if someone's traveling around the country, or someone's traveling to a different part of their state and it kind of takes a longer time, it fits in a travel size suitcase. So whoever's presenting it or whoever's traveling with it can honestly present wherever they're at, and it doesn't take up too much space in a suitcase. Another thing is that they were able to fit handouts into that suitcase as well. So you're not just traveling with the materials, you're also traveling with things to hand out to consumers or people that you would like to kind of gain some more knowledge on the industry as well. Nicki, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. And one of the other presentations that I really enjoyed was the Colorado Cattlewomen presented about their collegiate, or not necessarily just collegiate, but their beef ambassador program. And that is something that Meredith and I have been trying to get going in Wyoming, is a beef ambassadors program. And so that's just an example of one of the talks that happened at ANCW that is really great. And, really using other cattle women from across the country to help provide resources in our state. And so that was really great. I wanted to just circle back to the committees really quick because getting all of the ANCW members together is great, and it's really great to connect with ladies and network, but the committee meetings are really where the business gets done. And so if someone is interested in joining ANCW and what are these committees all about, what happens in them, and how do people find out which committee they'd want to join?
Yeah, so there are several committees, and I don't have a list of all of them in front of me, but some of the main ones are wired, communications, legislation, bylaws.
I believe they're all listed on ANCW's website. There's quite a few.
There's quite a few, and so you can there's so many different options that you can find one that's going to match not only your passion but your skill set as well, which is kind of the beauty of it. And you also can be part of more than one committee, so you're able to be active and put your input in a level that isn't necessarily like being in a leadership position, something that is still a huge important factor to keep this organization going, but doesn't require that level of commitment. Many hands make light work type of situation.
I think one of my favorite committees to attend was actually the Collegiate Beef Advocacy Program, just because it was really neat to see how many collegiate members were able to attend our ANCW meeting this year. And that program has grown really large, with Katie leading charge of that. But she's kind of taken charge of that and really have grown that program. Currently, we have three, that we call them CBAP, but three CBAP representatives right now who attend Texas A&M, University of Wyoming, and Colorado State, and kind of span on their college campuses and are able to present materials and information about the beef industry and really take charge and kind of have more members join. But it was really neat to see that it didn't just start at a older age, but you can start at a collegiate member, or you can start at a younger age too. And I think it's really nice, just for it being my first kind of conference for ANCW, is really nice to see kind of the younger generation kind of leading charge in that sense too. I think it's always intimidating to go to your first meeting and you don't know anybody, but it was really neat because a lot of the collegiate members kind of took charge and wanted to know people. So it was really nice, I thought, because I was invited to things like one of the nights Nicki and I went line dancing with some beef ambassadors from Utah. So that was really neat to see. And it was really neat to see kind of the camaraderie that a lot of the ANCW members bring and how they're always so welcoming to everything you attend to. I mean, for my first attendance, it was really nice because I was welcome to everything. I mean, Nicki and I were invited to many Colorado Cattlewomen dinners because we mentioned that we were just starting in Colorado. So it was really nice to see the states kind of taking charge and really making sure everyone was included too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Collegiate Beef Advocates program, which is hosted by ANCW. And if you want to learn more about that program, I know there's information on the website as well as Facebook. But if you're a collegiate interested in traveling around the country and advocating for the beef industry, attending events, that's a great program. And I know that those collegiates have been all over the place this year. The other committee that was mentioned is Wired. And if people aren't familiar with Wired, it's Women in Ranching Education and Development. And at ANCW, the official dates came out for the Wired events. So there are 4 events this year being hosted by Wired. There is one in Colville, Utah from May 8th to the 9th, Bentonville, Arkansas from June 19th through the 20th, Laramie, Wyoming from August 14th through the 17th, which Meredith and I are helping to host, and then September 11th to the 13th in Canyon, Texas. And so what do these Wired events entail, and what can people expect to get out of them? And I know, Meredith, you might have some things to say about this as well, because we've been a part of the planning process for the event in Laramie.
Yeah, I'll start off really quick. I've also been involved in putting a wired on. My mom has done one in the past. We've had two in the state of Nevada so far. But some of my first meetings was watched at ANCW was when this program was just starting to get off the ground. So it's a fairly new program, but it's been a lot of places and it's touched a lot of people. And the intention of this program was to give women who have been either disconnected from the ranch or stepped away from the ranch or coming or maybe married a rancher, somebody who maybe their husband died and now instead of having to do just the ranch book work, they're now having to be the ones at the chute operating the chute, or their dad's retired and now they're leaving their job town and going back and taking over the ranch, or maybe they married into it. And so it's a place that really takes it just small, like step by step, baby steps in an environment that is just ladies. And the intention is to make sure that you are comfortable, to make sure that you know that there's no stupid questions. And most of them have like live cattle that you're able to work on, and they go over everything from finances to chute side manner to meat science, and each one has different topics, and that's what makes them so unique, is that you never get the same thing twice, and it's really dependent on what the people who are running it in that area think are important to that area.
Yeah, and I think just a kind of a little sneak peek preview for Laramie is we're kind of getting a couple of ranches involved and then a little bit of the meat science side. And then you can kind of expect a couple of days from Noble Research to kind of give a profitability background. So you're able to learn that side of things too, if you're interested. But those are just our sneak peeks we'll give right now. And I'm sure more will be released on social media. So really look forward to those releases.
Yeah, and I think ANCW's website will have updates on the Wired events as well as Facebook. They have their own Facebook page under Wired, so you can follow that as well. So one of the other things that happens every year at ANCW is elections. And so this year we had an election of new officers. So the ANCW 2025 to 2026 president is Nicki Weston from Utah. The president-elect is Casey Matsky from Texas, and the vice president is Debbie Shute from Minnesota. So really a good range of ladies from across the country. So what can we expect from ANCW this year with these new officers and these upcoming programs? What can we expect to see?
Well, Nicki's theme for the year is building CattleWomen. She really wants to focus on the camaraderie side of it and gaining new members and coming up with ways for members to feel welcomed and more involved is her focus right now. And that's her hashtag for the year is hashtag building CattleWomen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Nicki kind of has in store. I know she's super excited to get kind of the younger generation involved as well and kind of hear their input too, what they're seeing in the industry, how they're acting in the industry, kind of what the industry's even doing right now, or even kind of what we're seeing on social media. I know she's super active in our communications committee, which is awesome because I mean, that's the front line. That's what a lot of people see first is kind of our social media side. So it's great that she's super involved and really wants to see the change in ANCW, and she wants to be the change too, which I think is really impactful for an organization.
Yeah, and so a lot of her goals are to recruit more members. And so before we move on to CattleCon, I think we should just give a final, how do you join ANCW? Why should you join? And I think it's important to note that you don't have to be a livestock owner or a rancher to join ANCW. Our mission is really just advocating for the beef industry. And so people who are interested in that mission should consider joining ANCW and going to ancw.org, learning more about the organization and social media as well. But how can people learn more about joining? Why should they consider joining? And I'd love to hear from both of you, especially Meredith, because you and I, this is both our first year with ANCW, and it's been absolutely fantastic ever since we started.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I joined ANCW was I was actually involved with my local chapters first, so in Wyoming and then Colorado, and I knew I wanted to take it a step further. Got involved with my state level chapters, so Colorado Cattlewomen and then Wyoming Cattlewomen, and they really honestly pushed me, and they really wanted me to be the best cattlewoman I could be, and wanted me to learn the most I could. And they all attended these meetings every spring, and they said, "Oh, well, have you ever attended?" And I said, "Oh, that's a possibility. I can attend too." And so I kind of looked into it, which American National Cattlewomen, the website does an amazing job of the educational factors as well as kind of what to expect with the membership too. And so I looked on there and I saw that a collegiate membership at the time is and still is a lot less expensive than a regular membership, which for the collegiates, that's amazing. And you should definitely take advantage of that. So collegiate members are a little bit less expensive than the regular members, but both sides, you don't have to be a cattlewoman or you don't have to have cattle in order to join. So Nicki and I both started being members in college, which if you know, college members usually can't afford cattle, so or their own piece of land. So that's how we kind of got started, and it was really to help promote the beef industry is why I personally joined. And it helped me connect with a lot of cattlewomen all across the United States and even a couple across the world too, which I thought was really impactful. So I really love this membership, and I've really loved the group and the environment that I've gotten to attend and enjoy. So
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that you can be as involved as you want with ANCW. You can join committees, and we have the communications committee, for example, we have one meeting a month over Zoom. And there's region events, which you can or cannot attend, depending on if that's something you have time for. And then there's two general meetings with all of the members. And this year it's in San Diego, California in July. So consider attending your regional meeting, and all of the events are on ANCW's website. But we are looking for passionate people who want to advocate for the beef industry. And if that's something you're doing at the state or even county level, consider doing it at the national level and join a great group of women. Anything else you guys want to add about ANCW and the first 3 days in Texas?
Not too much. It was just a really good meeting, and it's always really incredible to see people from around the country come together and share ideas. And because one of the really cool things about ANCW, my mom's been taking me since I was a freshman in high school, because she didn't want to travel alone, so I was the best option to be a travel buddy. And so I've seen it change and grow a lot in the past couple of years, and it's an incredible organization that's continuing to move forward in a lot of positive ways. But seeing everyone come together and share ideas, it's kind of like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're able to have you have so many resources just by being an ANCW member and knowing so many different people. It's absolutely incredible. You don't have to be an advocate for ag by yourself. You don't have to run your county or your state organization by yourself and come up with ideas, because there's so many people who've already done so many amazing things that you can kind of take and to mold into what you need. And so I think that's one of the really cool things about ANCW is that since we have the same goals, we're able to do it a lot stronger because we're able to do it together.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into CattleCon, which is hosted by NCBA every year. What was y'all's vibe at CattleCon? Did you have a good time? How was it?
it was the best time of my life. I absolutely loved CattleCon. Yeah, Leanna, what about you?
Oh, I always love it. I was able to drag my husband there this year, and he was quite apprehensive because he's one of those guys who leaves the ranch kicking and screaming. I love him, but he doesn't want to leave the ranch, and he had an amazing time, and he said that he'd be willing to go back. So it is that much fun. It's worth leaving the ranch over.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the most common words was, I don't know, I really didn't want to leave my ranch, or I should probably get back to my ranch before they hit CattleCon. And then afterwards, it was a completely different mindset. I know for me, I was like, oh, well, I have so many things back at home that I need to worry about. I mean, I was getting started with a new job the following Monday. I applied for a trailblazer position. I was just nervous going into CattleCon. And as soon as I stepped foot, it just felt like I was right at home. So many like-minded people in the same industry, same convention center. I mean, it was really nice. I mean, even just on the plane ride over, I was sitting next to someone that said, oh, are you going to CattleCon? And I said, yeah, I am. Are you? And I said, oh yeah, like, are you so excited? This is my first time. And we just kind of shared like kind of our involvement, and it was just really everybody's just so eager to get there and get to meet so many new people. I think for me, the best part was really building so many new connections. I mean, even if you're not a person that loves to learn, or you're ready to get out of the classroom setting, I mean, there's so many different opportunities for you to learn things there. But for me, the best part was honestly the connections I made and how many people I got to talk to every single day. I mean, I'm a talker, so that's kind of the best part for me in every single situation, but really getting to learn what people were doing there and kind of what they needed to learn, and what they were looking forward to, I think was the best part for me overall.
Yeah, this was my first year at CattleCon. And I was a little bit nervous because there are thousands of people at this event. And, I thought I was going to be overwhelmed. But like Meredith said, the amount of connections you make and the amount of people that you find out, oh, we have a mutual connection. Or, I rolled in and I saw a bunch of people from my region that I knew. And I was absolutely surprised that I saw people I knew. And the trade show, and if you've never been to CattleCon, the trade show is absolutely incredible. There are hundreds of booths that are handing out free stuff, giving out free resources. The amount of business cards and LinkedIn connections I made is fantastic. It's really just a great place to meet people in the industry. Gosh, I wish I was looking for a job right now, because that would have been the place to find one. But yeah, it was great. And I know that y'all had the opportunity to attend CattleCon. Can you just talk a little bit about that? I'm sorry, not CattleCon, Cattlemen's College at CattleCon.
Yeah. Yeah, so Cattlemen's College is something that I've been attending for years as well. And it's a little bit more for the registration to attend. But think about going to like 5 different TED Talks. It is really it's a bunch of really good classes. Each one's about an hour long, and they have multiple going at the same time, which is kind of unfortunate that you have to pick and choose because there's a lot of good options. But they always have the same general categories of like animal nutrition, animal health, a business category, a ecosystem management category, and so you get to go to one of those a class in one of those categories multiple times, and they have the best of the best teaching those classes. And my brother, who's a college student, attended. My husband attended too, and we would split up and go into the different classes and then convene and tell each other what we learned in all the different classes. And they have a lot going on, and I've been going to them for years, like I said, and because of that, I was always leaps and bounds ahead of my peers, especially in high school, but even in college, just because I attended the handful of Cattlemen's college classes once a year. It made a huge difference. And so if you have a high school age kid or you're a college student, it's well worth the money for the amount of knowledge that you get in that short amount of time. They are college level classes, and you get a lot out of them that is applicable that you can take back to your operation. It's not just like, hey guys, make sure that you break ice during the winter so your cows have water. Like it's like deep stuff that just is a continuous building block that you can really take home.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they're all taught by industry experts too, which, I mean, if you're going to gain knowledge here, you need to do it by experts, and you're walking around a million of them at this convention. I feel like, I mean, just to list off a couple, the Cattlemen's College kind of topics: innovative grazing, cattle health hotspots, future-proofing your business, and then how to maximize cattle performance with the Brahmin influence. I mean, these events were attended by so many people, and I think it really hit the nail on the head. And I think NCBA does a fabulous job with hosting these Cattlemen's College events, just like Leanna said. And it's nice because it's not just the younger generation. I mean, I saw so many people in the crowd that, I mean, 65 and older that still are trying to see, like, there was one about how to transition your ranch. And I know that's such a huge one to hit on the head right now. And there were so many people taking notes or sitting with their loved ones and, hey, how can we bring this back to our ranch? I mean, Anna, you were probably sitting with your husband saying, oh, well, this really applies to our ranch. I mean, we're going through a drought too. How do we kind of avoid those kinds of things? And I really love that side about the Cattlemen's College. And I mean, I connected with some people from Mexico and hearing what they had going on in Mexico and kind of what their issues were, or kind of what they were excited to see going on in the United States, and how they could bring that back to their ranch in Mexico, and kind of see what was going on in the United States level. And then hopefully next time they'll be able to bring it back to their ranch and kind of give an update on that. Or I mean, my favorite was also the shoots talks. I mean, there were so many times going over there where I was like, oh, wow, like you can handle your cattle this way, or maybe if I change this one thing on my operation, or even just a slight movement of how I handle my cattle, they'll completely react differently. So I really like that side of things too.
Yeah.
There, you brought up talking to people from other countries. One of the craziest things that happened to me during Cattlemen's Convention this year is that during the first day we all have a sit down lunch, and once again during lunch as we're eating, it's a bunch of like little mini TED Talks going on, and we ended up sitting next to a British reporter, and he was from England, and he was there to write an article or report or something about the American cattle industry and how we're handling things. And he was like telling me how excited he was about the rodeo and asking me if he had to bring his own beer or if there was going to be beer at the rodeo and popcorn. So that was really, really cool. I got to talk to him about how we're actually focused on environmental sustainability, and that's kind of always been a focus, but now we're kind of like, the science is kind of really honing in on that, and coming up with some better practices. So, because that's something going on in Europe right now, is that they're putting taxes on cow farts, and they're forcing people to liquidate their herds, because, as my husband put it when we were talking to him, he goes, well, our point of view is to kind of make more with less, focus on efficiency. And Europe's point of view is to kind of like lower the inputs. And I think that was a really good way to put it. So it was really cool to see somebody who, from the other side of the pond, as they say, I guess, interested in the American way of cattle production and how we are focused on sustainability and making sure that it is something that isn't harming the environment and something that we can pass on for future generations.
Yeah, you kind of touch on that sustainability side. I mean, Nicki and I were able to attend that first day's lunch focusing on carbon credits. So Nicki, do you mind kind of giving your side of things on the carbon credits side?
Yeah, and carbon credits are so relevant, and we hear them all the time in agriculture. And so it's always interesting to hear carbon market talks, because that's something that I'm really interested in. And it's things like that that are happening at CattleCon. It's how can we innovate? How can we bring additional streams of revenue to the ranch? And so hearing about carbon markets and how livestock can be used as a tool to sequester carbon into the ground is an example of what Leanna was just talking about. How can we be more environmentally sustainable and resilient in this industry? And one of the other things that I really enjoyed from CattleCon was the regional meetings. And it's really interesting to get people together that are from your same region, but from different states. And so, like, for example, in Region 5, the issues going on in Wyoming are very different to the issues going on in Washington State. And a representative that came up and gave an update from their state. And one of the things that they're dealing with is that there was a bill proposed to kind of potentially regulate methane emissions from feedlots. And so it's really interesting to hear all of the updates from other people's states and kind of see like what's coming for us in Wyoming and what are some of the other issues that people are dealing with. So I really enjoyed the regional meetings, but what other events from CattleCon were y'all a part of and what did you enjoy?
Well, I got to be one of the ANCW representatives for excuse me, so many acronyms. I was an ANCW representative for the NCBA committee meetings. And so they have a lot of different committees. I got this one I have a list for actually. Ag policy, cattle health, federal lands, international trade, live cattle marketing, property rights, and taxing credits. And so they take a representative from every state and affiliate organizations like ANCW, and they have some more presentations of industry leaders and what's going on that topic, but then also doing things like bylaw updates to make sure that we are cohesive in where we stand on these issues so we can be a united front, and then our folks in DC know what our stance is so they can fight for that. So that was really I was able to do that last year too, and so those are always really, really interesting to be a part of too, just to sit in on, because they have a lot of industry leaders. We had multiple meat sciences at mine. I went to live cattle marketing, and so a huge focus is the meat science side of things, because NCBA has come up with a committee. I can't remember the acronym of the committee right now, but their focus is they have about 30 people from multiple different backgrounds, and they're trying to come up with a better way to measure yield grade. Because our current system was created in the 50s and started getting implemented in the 70s. And they're finding I can't remember the acronym of the committee, but I remember all these metrics for some reason. They're finding a 60 to 65% variation in yield grades, because it kind of changes based on who's doing it, how much fat was trimmed off. And our carcasses are a lot fatter, a lot heavier than they were in the 70s. We now have beef on dairy and things like implants. And so they're trying to find a better way to do yield grading in a way that isn't going to change pricing for consumers, but it's going to make sure they get a more accurate and reliable grading. Right now, they're finding that CT scans they're calling it the gold standard, is these CT scans in finding out what these carcasses actually are made up of. And now they're just trying to figure out how to take that gold standard of CT scans and find a way to implement it in a practical way that can be utilized throughout the nation. So that was a really cool one to sit in on.
Yeah, I absolutely love the international trade meeting. I mean, it was really interesting to see kind of with Donald Trump's new favorite word being tariff, kind of what that committee was expecting and kind of what was going on there. I think it'll be really interesting kind of to see going forward what we're going to be looking at and kind of what these other countries are going to be doing with the reciprocal tariff side of things. But I just kind of wanted to highlight a couple other things I got to do and attend during NCBA CattleCon was going to the Wyoming Stock Growers dinner for Mark Isley. I mean, just to highlight such a great president this past year. It was really nice to kind of connect with him and kind of see what he reflected on and what he kind of could bring back to our Wyoming producers. And it was really neat because Nicki and I kind of got invited last minute, but it was really awesome to see the connections and honestly all cattle producers being invited to this going away reception for Mark Isley. That was really just probably my favorite part about the whole convention. And then I got invited to the Masters of Beef Advocacy reception and got to hear the new announcement for NCBA Advocate of the Year, which was Emma Kaufman, which she does an amazing job highlighting the beef industry and kind of the agricultural industry on her social media pages. And it was great to see how many of those advocates of the year were able to come back and kind of share what they've learned at CattleCon, and then also what they learned going forward with the industry, like how to promote it better and how to really be a strong voice for the community too. I thought that was really neat. And then lastly, Nicki and I got the chance to kind of work the RFD TV booth. And that was really neat because Nicki got to be one of the interns there, and she kind of invited me along, and RFD TV was really excited to have us both there. And I absolutely loved working that booth, and they're kind of their new app that they're promoting just to make sure that cattle producers really get the opportunity to hear what's going on throughout the United States and throughout the world with these different issues and different exciting things going on in the industry too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if you just walk around the trade show, there are so many booths just showing the new hot thing that's in the ag industry, whether it's, RFD-TV has a new app, or there's this new technology. There's virtual fencing now that's with solar panels versus batteries. Like, you learn everything that's going on in the industry just within the trade show, even if you don't go to the Cattlemen's talks, the Cattlemen's College talks. So CattleCon next year, same time, early February, but it is in Nashville, Tennessee. Why do you guys think that people should go? Not only that ANCW is always a few days before, so if you want to join the ANCW meetings, you can come early. But what about CattleCon? Why should people go to CattleCon?
It is such an opportunity to learn and to meet people. And I know it's kind of something we've been like kind of repeating throughout this episode, but that's why. I mean, even if you're in the trade show, they have live cattle handling demonstrations and shoot demonstrations and sit down cattle chat talks. So like, even if you're not talking to all of these businesses at the trade show, which is usually like 5+ acres, so like kind of give everyone a visual of how large this is, talking to different companies and businesses of their latest and greatest, but also having the opportunity to see the latest and greatest, just as industry standards change and grow.
Yeah, I think if you want to be in the know about what's going on in the industry, you need to go to CattleCon. There's so many things being released at CattleCon. There's so many new innovations that maybe you haven't heard about yet, and you can bring back to your ranch. I mean, you can order your stock trailer right there on site, which is really nice for a lot of people that are either getting started in the industry or really need an upgrade. And I think one of the cool things for me was there's a group called Trailblazers. So they're put on by NCBA, and they usually have their backpacks they're wearing around throughout convention. And it was really nice because you just walk up to them and they'll either introduce you to new people you need to know at CattleCon, or they're really going to make an impact for you at CattleCon and kind of show you where you should be attending if you're interested in certain things, or maybe even tell you a little bit of insights throughout the industry. Or they're up on that cattle chat stage telling you kind of how to be a better promoter or how to start promoting your industry. And I think it being in Nashville, Tennessee, I mean, what a dream, right? For any cattle producer or anybody that just wants to get out on the town. It's great to meet people throughout these different regions that we go to. I think the best part is really just getting to know the culture of the region you're going to. So, I mean, when it was held in New Orleans, a lot of the people that I've met had never tried gumbo. I mean, go out and try what is known for that region, and really just like let yourself know that it's okay to try something new, and it's okay to be an outstander or somebody that just really doesn't know what's going on in the industry, because there's so many people that'll bring you in and teach you so much about this industry, and there's so much worth knowing in this industry too.
And when it comes to connections, this is how like intense the connections get. The ANCW booth was right next to a booth for a bankers association. And so my mom running the booth was talking to them and told me that my husband and I needed to go talk to them because they're all about helping people in rural areas. And one goal of my husband and I is that we're working towards long term, of course, is to buy some of our own property. We both come from ranching families, but we are really driven to also buy our own property. And so we were able to talk to these people at this rural bankers association, and they laid out to us all the programs that are available, how we can use different ag bankers. They knew which ag bankers were in our area. They knew how we would work with them and how we would work with FSA for our farm service agencies, how we work with them together and separate, and if we're having any trouble, to give them a call. And so that was a really cool, like random connection. But that's just how it is that people are just really friendly, and you end up not only knowing people from all over the country and all over the world, but they're willing to help you in whatever way that they can.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but no question is a dumb question here at this convention. I mean, you're able to ask anything and no one's going to look at you funny. Nobody's going to treat you a different way. I mean, they're just really there to help you. And in whatever situation you're in or whatever stage of life you're in, there's people willing to help you. There's people willing to educate you and really just want you to get involved in the industry as much as you can.
Yeah. I'm very much so looking forward to CattleCon in Nashville, not only for the networking, to see ranchers from across the country and meet them, of course, the ANCW meetings that happened before, but this year there was a rodeo in San Antonio, and I'm excited to see what's happening in Nashville. Maybe we'll go to the Grand Ole Opry or concerts or something, but
when I went to Nashville a couple years ago, we had a private show at the Grand Ole Opry with a couple of fairly well-known country music stars, and that was an incredible experience. The acoustics in there, like, you just feel every note like inside your soul. And so, I mean, I don't want to say that that's what's going to happen next year, but it is a distinct possibility.
We can only hope, because that sounds amazing. Any other event idea or events you guys want to talk about from CattleCon, or anything else to add?
One thing that I found really interesting, and you wouldn't think that it's an issue, but it's an issue that's come up so much that I saw this presentation 3 different times, and I certainly wasn't at every demonstration and every class and every meeting, but it's something that they're really trying to hit home in. And it's a very interesting one. They are finding a lot of buckshot in meat, as in producers and people are using shotguns to herd cattle. And the thought would be naturally that they're far enough away, BBs are small enough or what have you, that it's not going to penetrate past the hide. And they're finding that it is, to the point that they're having to, these processing plants, since they do combined ground beef, they're having to throw out like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cattle worth of meat because of the contamination that they're seeing from this bird shot. And the presentation is really interesting. It was a professor from West Texas A&M, and they have so many different processing plants in the Panhandle of Texas. And every time that they find something weird, they call him. So the amount of objects that he brought that we got to like touch and had photos of were absolutely wild. There was everything from whiteboard markers to a cannonball that was like kind of like bigger than the size of your hand. He said that was in the rump of a cow, and she walked into the plant no problem. Super large fishing hooks. It was extremely interesting presentation. But I just wanted to bring it up because it's apparently becoming quite a prevalent issue. And buckshot isn't anything particularly new, but they are finding a lot of those darts that in cattle now too, that the dart application isn't being done right and is penetrating the hide and ending up in the meat as well. So that was something that I did not expect to hear while we were there. But it was definitely, once again, NCBA is going to bring forward the most prevalent issues that you had no idea were an issue at NCBA for everyone to know about.
Yeah, and I just think that's such a crazy story, and I definitely have heard that talk go on quite a bit at CattleCon this past year too. But I think kind of my closing thoughts is go out and try CattleCon, go out and try something new, go out and meet new people, because it's really going to make an impact on your farm or your ranch. And it's really going to make an impact on you personally. I mean, my energy, my spirit, my everything was like skyrocketed during CattleCon week. I mean, I was so excited to see the women that I'd seen in my regions, but then meet so many more. And it really just, the camaraderie and the excitement just every single day was so much. And just curious, if someone's attending CattleCon next year, how can we reach you guys on social media?
ANCW on social media, or
like you guys personally, if someone wants a friend to go, if someone wants to go meet you at CattleCon, or wants a friend to kind of go tag along with at trade show, like what are your guys' social medias that they can reach out to if you're comfortable?
Yeah. Mine is Ranching Forever on TikTok, YouTube, and now Instagram. So you can reach out. I'd love to connect. Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Meredith.
Mine is the Buckaroo Chat on Instagram and TikTok.
And then mine's just Meredith __ Volkortson, which that's a mouthful, but you'll find it on TikTok and on Instagram. It's the only one out there. But yeah, I really just hope you guys will come attend CattleCon with us next year. And if you guys see us around, please stop and say hi, or say that you saw our podcast, because we always love meeting new people.
Yeah, absolutely. And we should mention too that there are grants that producers can apply for to help fund attending CattleCon. So it can get kind of expensive. So those are nice resources as well.
It's definitely a cost, and it's worth the cost. And my mom is the write-off queen, and she makes sure to let me know that this is a vacation that we can write off. So that's it's definitely helps with the cost, being able to write it off as a business expense. But it's incredible to put on your fancy clothes and get dressed up and meet a ton of people in a really cool city. And everywhere we go is always a really cool city with an interesting background, and learning about the culture and the agriculture in that area is really an eye-opening experience. And of course, you can also follow ANCW on our social media accounts on Instagram and Facebook, just as the American National Cattlewomen. We always post updates on what's going on with CattleCon, the schedule, what's going on with ANCW at CattleCon. And not only are you welcomed at CattleCon for our winter meetings, but our summer meetings as well. This year, as Nicki mentioned, our summer meeting is in San Diego. And if you can't meet us there, then a really good place to start is at your region meetings.
Okay, well, that is, I guess, the end of today's episode. And again, if you're interested about getting involved with ANCW, check us out on social media, on the website, and hopefully we can connect in the future.
Thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it.